Oh, hold it. Gee. Copy you. I'm gonna be and we're live, by the way, so this is the funniest thing. We're live, but I
We're
don't
live
have
right now?
Johnny in here yet, so just, and we will have him right here, 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 and ladies and gentlemen, welcome, and I'm gonna there we go, look at
Oh,
that. So
nice.
Johnny, we, we have this funny thing. First off, case if you already know us, I am sick. I feel fine, for about
But what he means by that, he's not feeling well. He's
I'll
clearly
pretend I
sick.
feel fantastic and I can get away with it maybe for an hour. I'm gonna be an actor today. And have you ever done so let's talk about this because sometimes you're sick and you've had to go into a studio and you've had to read. And I'm also gonna move us around. So I'm gonna change our layout here. So we'll put Johnny
Oh,
up here. I'm gonna make him
that's nice.
bigger and prettier. And
Well,
I have a severe cold and it's called life. And I've had performances in my life where I've had a gig and I just feel like horsey stuff. And I've had to do it anyway. And I don't know any performer that hasn't had those types of things where they haven't felt great and they still need to go out and perform and pretend for and be an actor for an hour or two or whatever it is and do their best so that the audience doesn't know. Now, for those of you who know, Johnny's, I think I said hello and he's like, wow, you sound terrible.
yes.
Yes.
What I
So
said was you sound worse than normal, I think, yeah.
yeah, that I think that was the right term though. But so here's what's happened to me a couple times. I've played gigs feeling horrible with a fever, sweating, and I kind of went in with the mentality, I'm just going to get through the night. I'm not going to try to do anything fancy. I'm not going to do anything extra. I'm not going to try to let anybody know in the audience that I don't feel good. And I've actually had some of the best performances of my performing career when I went in and did the minimal and was not trying to impress anybody because I couldn't whether I mean, I just went in it with the survival mode and it's like, get your job done, be a pro, shut up. And it worked sometimes better than normal. I don't have you ever experienced that sort of thing?
Indeed, I have. Before we talk about though, I do wanna say that our guest today, our advertised guest, Nikki Zakocs, will not be with us today. We'll have to reschedule her. It was a communication, imbroglio, so everybody's fine except Don's not feeling well, but no Nikki for you. So you have to suffer through Johnny and Don for this chunk, and we're here for you. Listen, this is a great chance, however, to get a dialogue going with us, to ask your questions and everything. Now, to go back to what Don's thing is, it's a different world when you are feeling poorly with a cold or something, as you have now, and you have to go on stage and do something because hopefully if there's an understudy, that's when you call on them. But if not, there you are. So you're talking about great performances that you gave when you were sick. And I think I can tell you why. It's because every ounce of energy you had went into the moment to moment performance,
Right.
being alive and connected for every moment you are on stage and doing your acting job. And I guarantee when you walked off the stage or the set, wherever, you just folded up like a wet
Yeah, I just
blanket.
wanted to go to
All your
sleep.
energy was gone.
I didn't even wanna drive home. I just wanted to go in my car and put the seat back and go, "F it. I'll get there in the morning when the sun comes up," because I don't feel like driving even.
So it's a different thing, a complete in the audiobook world. It's a little different because when you're on stage or in a show, whether you're whatever you're doing, if you're a comic, they know you've got a cold and you can, as long as you can continue to perform and still land the joke, you can use your illness as part of the comedy. That's up to how facile you are to what's going on. But in terms of plays, you got to play the role as written. But if you're Willie Loman, you can play Willie Loman with a cold.
Right.
It doesn't change anything.
Okay.
As long as can be
Yeah.
heard. If you're doing a book, you're doing a Tom Sawyer or something, whatever you're doing, it's different because unless you're starting the book,
Oh,
because if you're starting the book and have a cold, you're gonna have a cold for the whole book, whether you have one or not, to keep
right,
the
right.
consistent.
That would be the
If
problem I see, yeah,
Yeah,
by the time you get to chapter 32, you
yeah,
no
well,
longer have a cold and you're gonna sound
you have a
totally
light
different.
voice, and now you're deep, dark baritone here, which doesn't come out normally. It's
Right.
it's in you. what I find, if it's workable at all when you have an audiobook situation, is you try to play in this kind of area, make it soft, make it. That's why I always tell people, bring it down, make it more, because this is a thing you can do. If I ask you not to whisper, but just to take it down to a conspiratorial note, you just say what a great day it is, but bring it down. Don't be booming. Just say it to me. Just say anything.
Oh, what a fantastic day it is.
It's still a little dark, but I think if we add some more breath to it, we can bring it up a little bit. There are ways you can kind of match your previous tone through technique and tech that'll help you get through. However, if it's a cold and you're feverish and stuff, and your mind is only on trying to match the tech,
Yeah.
then I would argue you're not in the story and should wait, which is not. But one important thing to note for those of you taking notes at home, contact your publisher. If there's going to be a problem with the deadline, definitely contact. If you just have a cold for a couple of days and just you have to make it up on your end, you may not have to. But if there's going to be any problem in turning in the project, they need to know. And I've sent notes. Listen, I've got a really bad cold. It's probably going to cost me a few days. I don't think it will affect the end date, but I'm just letting you know in case there is a problem. Hopefully it won't, and I'll check in with you in a couple of days, let you know how things are. That way they know there's a potential problem, but not necessarily a problem. But I've alerted it to it, and I didn't wait to the end and say, "Oh, but I had a cold last week, 2 weeks ago."
Right.
I've told them. I've left a paper trail, if you will, and that's important because a lot of your publishers and casting people will have memories, positive and negative, of you based on you being timely. If you let them know, they're not going to be upset you got a cold. Think of the COVID, think of the pandemic time. People got COVID and didn't get COVID, got COVID, didn't get everything, and people made it, so it was okay.
And they deal with so many people. I would guess so many narrators are contributing things. They've got stuff coming in all the time. When you have a big number of people doing something, you're going to have a couple of them that have a cold or a life event or something going on. So they
Oh yeah,
must be somewhat used to it. So they recognize, oh, but Johnny at least he communicates when something has come up, and they must. I assume they end up respecting that because you are giving them the notice in advance where somebody newer is almost afraid, "Oh, no, the publisher will feel like I'm a terrible person," except for the publisher's been through this before, correct?
yeah, yeah. I'm trying to find. I'll find it in a minute. I do. One of the things we want to talk about is time. First off, in terms of being ill, I want to say, certainly for me, I appreciate your stick to itiveness and your determination to put this show on. I don't know if you folks out there know, Don and I do this for you. Yeah, I mean, of course, it's nice to be seen regularly, so it's nice for us. But to bring our guests in, to talk to you guys, to answer your questions, and to be there for you as sort of a information and support thing, and also hopefully an hour of friendly, fun conversation. Um, and for him to stick to it like this, I mean, as you've seen in the past, if I get a booking like I had last week, I, I'm not showing up for you.
Yeah, I know.
Here's Don sick as a dog, and he is showing up for you because if he wasn't here, this wouldn't happen because I don't even know how to turn any of this stuff on. I don't
Yeah,
even know what the
yeah.
plug is.
But, I feel decent, sort of, and whatever. I can do an hour of anything for now.
Oh,
And as long as then we'll see what happens later this week. I'll bet I'll be fine in a couple days.
I
Anyway,
hope so too.
um so, what's happening? I know we're 2 weeks out from, this weirdo thing that's going to happen on the East Coast, right? Can you tell us
Yeah.
about that?
The New England Narrator Retreat. I know that many of you in the audience and who watch us regularly have been or at least know about it because I've certainly mentioned it. Um, here's I'm not sure a best way to say it is, but this is our 10-year anniversary. uh, Joanna came up with the idea, 10 years ago, a little about probably 11 years ago, because he put it together. And that time we worked with another partner who since isn't with us, which is just fine. And we're carrying on just fine. It's been a wonderful experience. We've gone through 10 years. We took a year, of course, for the pandemic, and we did a Zoom one. And I think Don's been with it for the last 4 or 5 years, I think.
I think this is my 5th one.
Yeah, and I can't remember actually how he showed up. He just barreled his way into my life that day.
I think I was
Um,
just on the road and happened to trip over it somehow.
so we originally we were in Rhode Island in this very rustic thing with really, really great food, but very rustic. I mean, not first class accommodations at all. You got to kill
Outhouses.
once you killed the spiders, you could get in the bed. But now we're at the Warren Center in Framingham. I think it's called actually Ashland, Massachusetts, about 30 minutes out of Boston. Um, and it is idyllic. There's a beautiful
There's a
stream or
lake.
lake on whatever with beautiful. Yeah, so far the foliage has been cooperative. It's been gorgeous. We have we have a big fire pit every night. We have karaoke. We have listeners lounge. We've always brought publishers in. When we started, I think there's 2 publishers and about 4 or 5 coaches. Now to this year we had 4 publishers and I think 10 coaches. Um, Peter Burkhardt, who lives in the Boston area, is coming in for coach for us for a couple of days. He did that the last few years, so that's wonderful. It's really here's what it is. It's everybody getting together to share the love of performing in this genre and audiobooks, to discuss the issues, to meet public, and also you get to spend time with the publishers and the coaches and your fellow actors, and you really get to know people in a totally different, much more organic and sustaining way. Lifetime friendships, at least for the 10 years we've been doing it. So 10-year friendships anyway have certainly happened. But you get these, you just get to know, and you sit with breakfast with one person, or this group is 8, and then another group of 9, and then you move around, and it's just so warm and welcoming, whether you're introverted or extroverted, whether you want to be involved or not involved. There's a place for you and a thing for you, and we work. Joanna and Lisa Ware, for God bless her, we work both, and we work above and beyond to make sure everybody's comfortable, everyone's at ease, everyone enjoys, and we cover a lot of important topics. And you may note, if you look at the agenda, in the later afternoon sessions we have, some of the people have been coming for the last X number of years are also have things they're willing to share and want to share. And I'm trying to bring up a new generation, if you will, of coaches and people who can do this and be there for you and share the things they do know and know well. And I think it's wonderful. Phil Thron and I can be doing something on humor. There's going to be some AI talk, which Don and I'll have today. There's going to be accent work from Steve Corona. Kate Flaherty's going to talk about men doing female accents, which is a huge problem for a lot of people. Just a lot of these things. So they're interesting. Brenda Wazloo is going to be there doing some improv. It's just some really wonderful, warm stuff, and I'm quite excited about all of it. Adam Barr's going to be with I forgot who he's working with. But they're talking about independent stuff, working with indie authors and things. So things you need to know. And while the morning session is a big panel, and then there's lunch, and then there's directed reads, the publishers come to directed read sessions, and they watch and they listen and they ask. They're involved totally. It's a full schedule with plenty of time to kick back, relax, and the evenings are awesome.
Yeah.
They're so much fun. I mean, and if you're not a drinker, I don't know why you should. No, it's fantastic. It's just great.
Well,
It's
just
kind of like a lovely up with people meeting, except with booze. I don't know if they have those meetings. So,
and you know what? I mean, I'm a minimal drinker these days based on I worked in
yeah,
bars as a young adult a lot. And so I just don't drink as much as I did at one point in
yeah.
my life.
No, I
Anyway,
quit for a whole year.
but I'm going to change subjects because that
Yeah.
just gets me in trouble talking about my past. Chris has a great question here. When you're working with an author to produce their first audiobook, what are the guidelines you present to them? What do you do to set expectations? So, Chris, are you talking about this is an indie production, and I assume that's not through
It sounds like
a major
an indie
publisher?
author question. Yeah.
Okay. So one of the things, I mean, I can tell you categorically is if you try to set expectations at the very end, you're in trouble. Like one of the problems that we always have, and Johnny will deal with this all the time. A publisher comes back to him and says, "Hey, you made a mistake," and he's like, "No, that actually was an acting show." I mean, first he could have made a mistake. So if he made a mistake, he'll fix it, and he doesn't complain about that. But sometimes
Yeah.
He made a decision as an actor that this was the way it was going to be, and so one of the expectations that you absolutely want to set up front is, by the way, I'm an actor. I'm interpreting your production, and occasionally it will differ slightly from what you heard originally in your head, and that would be normal. There's no actor in the world that's going to do it like what's in your head. And I am always willing to revise things if I made a mistake, but there are acting choices that I might make that might be slightly different that won't change the meaning, but I'll be consistent with them myself. And sometimes it'll be, in other words, if they know up front that you are an actor, that you are a performer, and they know that occasionally there will be something that is slightly different than what they had heard in their head, then they're not bothered by the later you saying, "Oh, that was an acting choice," because what happens is if you don't tell them that it's not going to be exactly what they hear in their head in advance, they think you're just trying to get out of work when you say, "No, I don't want to revise that," sort of thing. Um, it's amazing how they sometimes feel their director as well. So as far as setting expectations, by the way, I'm producing this. I want it to be great. I want it to be great for you. Every once in a while, we will have something that we do slightly different, but I want to tell your story as authentically as possible. And as long as they understand up front that there's going to be some minor differences, because there always would be, no matter what actor they have doing it, usually they're fine with it. But if I wait till the very end, and after they come back with a revision request, and then they think, Don's just lazy, he doesn't wanna do a revision is what it's kinda sounds like. So, what expectations would you make sure that you set for people?
Well,
Because
I
you
think Chris is referring to, if it's an ACX thing, ACX does have a primer on this where they shows, and I know that in the ACX Facebook groups, um, if you ask, would anyone share their author expectation or their first reach out to the author? Because as long as you're on the same page, there isn't a problem. Don's quite correct. You can't set expectations after the job.
Right,
There are certain financial obligations that are consistent with the ACX model. If you're not an ACX, you still have to spell out the financial obligations, and then the artistic obligations. And how much direction do you want from the author? How much right do they have to say, I wanted that character to be Scottish when you did him Jamaican? That kind of thing. So you need to set expectations. My best advice for this is, as Don said, say you, Chris, me, you, Johnny, you, Don, you handle the artistic elements. You're the actor. You are interpreting the work. The work's already done. You interpret it. So how much feedback do you want from the author? You also want to, so you want to appreciate what they've done, but once that work is out, that's everybody else's to enjoy, to interpret. If you look at Picasso, you look at the lady falling down a stairs painting, and it is or it isn't. It's up to
yeah,
you. The
yeah,
painting's out there, and so in this kind of thing, there are really good examples, and I've seen them shared in those groups. I know James Romick would have a great example. Would have a great what am I trying to say? Example for you to work
yeah,
off,
document that's already
documenting it,
together.
and almost every actor works regularly in the ACX and in the indie platforms. Adam Barr would have. You can reach out to some of these people or just ask on the Facebook in the groups. Does anyone have a introductory letter, an expectation letter they're willing to share so that I can use it as a template? And they're all going to be similar. Try to add a little of your personality into the template. I would. While there is some legalese, you want it to be Chris Walshalese as opposed to Johnny Hellerlees and Don. You want to get yourself in there a little bit, but let them know what they can expect. That way, there's no questions. And if together, because in ACX certainly it's a dual, you're the producer and you're working with them, and you're getting 20-20 split on the money. So if there's something that comes up that you guys didn't cover, then that's a lesson. Start covering it.
Yeah,
But you want to make it clear what your job is. If you're charging $30,000 an hour, you want to tell them why, what they're getting for it, that kind of thing. But there are plenty of those letters out there. Gary at least said, because some call it a welcome packet. Exactly. Which is a great name because that's welcoming in and of itself. Hey, great to work. Here's my welcome packet. And then there it spells out, Joanna and I are in the middle of maybe look at some co-op stuff. So this is everybody has a co-op, a condo co-op package, and you got to meet these people. They've got all this stuff. It's a bit much, but you coming into it knowing what has to happen makes making it happen so much easier
Right.
because you set the expectation. So that's very important. It's a great question, but I guarantee you there are templates of various welcome packets available. Almost everybody in the ACX group page will share it with you, or if you just do a search at the top of the page in that group, they'll pop up. There'll be at least 10 of them. Pick
Yeah.
the one that seems to work for you, change it, make it your own, and that should ideally take care of most of the things because it's. And I will say, working with publishers, it's really different.
Yeah.
None of that. Almost everything that comes up or that you've got to cover in the indie welcome packet doesn't come up at all.
Right.
The publisher, here's a script, here's an engineer or a director if they give it to you. Let us know if you need help with the word list. Other than that, we'll see you January 2nd when it's due. Off you go.
And they obviously don't want you talking to the author and asking the author questions about, hey, would you like me to do this with a South Boston accent versus a New Jersey accent? It's like,
That's a
well,
great
no,
point. Yeah, because with publishers, frequently you need to. I've worked for authors who are friends of mine. I just did the Gales of November, the Edmund Fitzgerald story for John U. Bacon in Michigan, who's a friend. I mean, I've done a bunch of his books. We're friends now, and I do call him up.
Yeah.
And I say, hey, how do you say this guy's name? Or I do email him. Now, I let the publisher know that I know the guy.
Right.
I do well. Todd Goldberg is a wonderful author, and I went out to dinner with him 2 weeks ago. He was in town. I ask him stuff. I try not to bother him. If you're going to bother the author for questions, you better be friends or you better get the okay. But you need to let the publisher know you have a relationship or that you can utilize it. And some say, no, don't contact them because they have certain legal deals in place in their welcoming packet that you aren't aware of, don't need to be aware of. When a publisher says don't contact the author, what you should do is not contact the author. It's that simple. So let them know. But by and large, everybody wants the best product out there they can get.
Yeah.
Okay, what did Sherry Gelpert say? I can't.
Oh, I'll
can't
highlight
read
that
it.
one for you. She's
Is it
just saying
silliness?
she's excited to see you in 2 weeks.
There'll be a sing along. Sherry, if there's going to be a sing along, either you got to pass out the sheets with the words, or see if Trenton could get it on his little karaoke screen.
Yeah.
I think this will be fun.
I
don't know if you read my stuff. I do. You don't have to. I do a lot of political ranting. I'll be in.
when I haven't, I don't believe you.
I'll be thrown in the alligator Alcatraz in short order. But I make up words sometimes that some people find entertaining. So that's what she's talking about. Yeah.
So Chris, any other
get to be part of that?
Chris, if you have any other questions on that or follow-up questions, be sure to post that up there.
You guys keep asking questions so Don doesn't have to talk as much as he's doing.
Yeah.
Otherwise, because I'll happily chitter away forever. But yeah.
I want to know what do you, since COVID's ended, are publishers any different now than before COVID?
I think they're more well, that's not fair to say. You have to forget they went through the same horrible social sequestering that we did. I mean,
Right.
I don't believe our nation in general or the world in general has ever dealt with or is dealing from a mental health standpoint, dealing cleverly or smartly healthy with COVID. It's stymied.
Right.
It stymied all social intercourse for 2 years. Changed how we lived, how we felt. We became, and I just think that the differences now are that there's still less willingness, I think, for some people to get together in groups for various reasons, fear or anything.
Yeah.
I mean, but in terms of publishers, the work, the thing, I don't think so. I think one of the things that came out of, and this is said, one of the industries that weathered COVID spectacularly is the audiobook industry.
Yeah.
Because here's me doing a book in my booth. I'm not interacting with anyone.
Right.
Just
And I think they're a little more open. There was a time where they were primarily doing things in studios for the 80% of their stuff, and I'll bet it's flipped because during COVID, they had no choice, and they found it they figured out how to make that work, and now it's probably flipped that they're doing 80%. They're letting you stay in your own booth, and now you have to, I think, don't you almost sometimes have to ask, "Hey, can we do this in studio?"
They generally, depending on where you are, like,
Mhm.
because I live in Manhattan and most of the people, most of the, Penguin Random House, Macmillan, and Simon& Schuster, they're all here. They'll either just say they'll say, do you wanna come to our studio? You wanna do it in yours?" And it really depends on the book for me. Penguin let's say Penguin Random House, for example, and, by the way, even prior to COVID, there was a giant run, in the 2010s. Um, that's when the boom in the individual audio booths happened, and that's when the boom in audiobooks happened. There was one big movement, and the thing is, and what happened was there was a big move in those days,
Mm.
big movement to get together and do all the backlist titles. So a lot of people who had no acting background but had a booth started to work, and audiobooks began to explode. After some of the back titles were done and the work wasn't as much, some of the people on the edges didn't get the same work they did, and that hurt them. And then we went into the COVID thing where you had to have your own booth to work. You're not going to go to Penguin Random. You're not going to go to the studios were vacant. Even now, not everybody shows up all the day. I was at Penguin Random House all last week, and I saw there's like 2 days in the week that I thought had a lot of people in it. Most of the cubicles, I'm sure they're working from home. They're not working, but they
Right.
weren't coming in as much. But the advantage of going, if you live in LA or New York City, and you get to go to the studio, if it's an option, two things to think of. One is that means you got to go every day, and any retakes you do, you got to go there to do
Right.
because they want it in the same booth. I think Don would
Yeah.
correctly argue that I could do retakes in my booth and they could be made to sound exactly like that booth, but
But it's
they want
harder.
you to come in.
First off, I don't wanna have to put it together. I
Yeah,
mean, can you do it? Of course you can do it. Is it optimum? And yeah, I could mask that you were in 2 different booths, okay? So
yeah,
it can be
yeah.
done, but
I'd
it is a
rather
lot
it's
of
easier not
work, and it's not, and it's just easier to go, record. That'd be like the cold, no cold thing. You either do a whole book with a whole cold, or you do a book without a cold, but try to
yeah.
do both.
Mm. For me, the advantage, however, if you ever get the option to go to the studio, there's at least a few advantages. One, you're not home.
Right,
So all the hours you're there are work hours.
right. Your
And I
dog.
don't care what anybody says, you may book out hours at home, but you have dogs or you have kids or you have a spouse or a partner or you've got lunch or you've got, you're home, man. I can walk out of here and go have a delicious sandwich,
Yeah,
and I don't have that same option. I mean, lunchtime's when lunchtime is.
right.
Also, if you go to, so yeah, I think you get it done because that's the only thing this is what you're just tunnel vision, get the thing done and you're working. Also, you get to see um, other publishers or producers, casting people.
Right,
You see them and they see you.
right,
That does make a difference.
right.
I'm telling you, if it's between, if you've never seen Don and I, and you get to meet us both, it's easier to pick who you want to work with than just two voices out there. You think you know it, and I'm just telling you, it gives you a chance, assuming you have a reasonably nice personality, to share that and get to know them and get to know them. You have lunch with them sometimes because you all sit at a table. It's just a great way. That used to be the
The
norm.
norm, yeah.
Now it isn't, but it really makes it out. Every actor who's, oh God, over 40, 30, I don't know, will tell you it's better when you get a chance to meet a whole bunch of casting people
Yeah,
in a situation. So it's better to go, and you really do concert. And also, most publishers, when you go to the studio, you're not doing any of the tag, any of it.
right.
Nothing. There's an editor there and frequently a director, and you work with them. So you
And
press like Penguin Random House is open roll. Now we all used to punch record. So I make a mistake, I stop and fix it. Open roll, you make a mistake, you fix it, but you don't stop anything. And it's a little hard to get used to at first
yeah,
because you keep going and they're just marking the script. This is good, this is bad, this is good, and you don't have to do anything. So that's kind of neat.
You
So
did
there. So
mention
those
you'd have to have a nice personality, so I've gotta work on that part, but,
yeah, I come up short a lot. I never come out of the booth. I have 'em bring lunch in.
Chris has a great question here. So about accents, when you're working with a book which has some accents outside your wheelhouse, how would you handle these? Now,
Oh, that's a great question.
it's
It's great.
especially if that accent, if you have to sustain it for multiple chapters, or it's in the beginning and the middle, and then it comes back later. How in the world do you handle that?
It's first off, if you don't if it's not in your wheelhouse, that word suggests to me that there is a wheelhouse to begin with. So it's conceivable. Yeah, here's a few tricks, and I'm not sure any accent or dialect coach will tell you this is correct. So these are the Johnny Heller tricks. One, if the accent is something that you've heard an actor do, film, TV, stand-up comic, an impressionist who does whatever the accent is, particularly impressionists, comedic impressionists. I watch them. I'll go to YouTube and I'll look at the video of them doing. Let's say it's posted an accent. It's Christopher Walken, but that's whatever. So you go. I don't watch Christopher Walken to do a Christopher Walken impersonation. I'll watch impressionists do Christopher Walken. They've already found the way in, and it's the same with accents. Um,
Do you have to be
if
perfect?
No, no, and here's the thing, not only is that'll be perfect, most of the time, particularly if it's an accent that you suck at, you just need to get a couple words to show it's not the same character as everybody else. What we all forget, here's the deal, like, I had to do a book in, Noir, the Christopher, Moore book, and there's a section for no reason at all, our hero talks to a guy in a bar who's South African, and I have no facility or I just couldn't do it. I called Joe Frumkin, who can do it. And I sent him it's a paragraph. The guy had a little paragraph. He's talking again. Sorry. And Joel did it for me. He did it on the phone. Then he sent me the MP3 of him doing it. And I can hear and copy. I just copied Joel. Now, if that character was in the book throughout, either I wouldn't have got the book because I was so bad at it, or I wouldn't have gone so heavy into the accent. If you just hint at the end, like, you watch Steve Martin's Pink Panther. I think Peter Sellers did better Pink Panther, but Steve Martin's funny because just hamburger. He just really overdoes the French, and it's clear he's not French, but it's funny. And the key is we, the audience, suspend our disbelief.
Right.
What every single actor in the audiobook world forgets regularly, much to my dismay, is that the listeners already accepted you as everybody.
Right.
So if your French accent isn't up to snuff, don't overdo it.
Right.
Um, I you just get like I'm working on Australian now. I'm trying to get some Australian stuff, and I can do it, but I haven't differentiated. I want to try a few different reads so that I can have in my wheelhouse different Australian guys as
Well,
opposed to
except
so what's that?
but Australia's a small place. Just I
Don't tell
mean,
them.
explaining my geography, expertise, but it's a kind of a big place, which means I doubt there is one. So here's the thing
Yeah,
that Heller's
it's like an
I'm
American accent. Do an American
yeah,
accent.
do an
What?
American accent if
Yeah,
you're or do a British accent.
yeah,
There is
yeah.
no British accent. That's the
The-
good thing. So that's the Chris for you specifically. There really is, if someone wants you to do a Boston accent, and let's pretend that's outside your wheelhouse, it would be for me. Um, then what you have to do if you're going to sustain it is find the essence of it, what Johnny just said, and see if you can do your version of British, Boston, which might be New Jersey. But here's the weird thing. Anymore, people move around so much and their parents are from different places. You could have a person in Boston that sounds like they're from New Jersey because that's where their parents were from. And the biggest problem is that your authors, if you're working direct, in their head they heard a Boston accent. One of the things to remind your authors is when people read their book and it says Johnny Heller is from Boston, and then they apply their Boston in their head. It's not the same as what the author's Boston is. I come up with my own Boston for Mr. Heller, the character, and I might be I'm reading the book, and when the character Johnny Heller is speaking, I'm hearing him in a New Jersey accent, and does it change the book? It does not change it at all.
I think also if you listen, let's say you want to do Boston, I'd look at Ben Affleck doing the Dunkin' Donuts commercials,
Oh, yeah.
you know, so or Marky Mark doing his thing, because there's certain things they do, and you get a feel for the character, which you can play. And vocally, listen, if you play depends, it's not just a guy from Boston. Who is this guy?
Right.
Is he full of that bravado, you know, the towny kind of guy? Is he, you know, Southie kind of guy? Who is he? And once you get a feel for him or her, that character comes through with a few park my car and Harvard yard. So you get, you know, that A sounds a little different. See if you can, and you can go to YouTube and goes, how to identify a Boston accent. And there are certain little clues. This is if you can't afford an accent coach. You know, how do you identify a Chicago accent? And there are big clues. So if you touch on just bits of those, find a word or two words that bring that accent out, and it'll ground you again. But remember, it's the story and the character, the thing, far more than the accent. If the accent is super important, you've got to make some accommodation for it, even if it's not in your wheelhouse. The trick is to make it part of your wheelhouse, but not, it's, in other words, it's not your main four wheels, but it's a reasonably good spare tire,
Yeah.
you know, so you can put it in and just get through it. Don't dwell on how shitty you are at it. Dwell on how good you are at it. Change your outlook, change your feel, and it'll help a lot. And people are only going to be fazed and bothered by it if you overdo it or don't trust what you just did. If you trust and go, it doesn't make any difference. The story moves on. People want the story.
Sure just asked, how do you know if it's time to switch out your equipment? Specifically, how do I tell if I should change my mic? Go ahead, Johnny.
I have no idea. Somebody gave me it was a nice mic, and then someone gave me this what have I got? A T4047, something AK,
Yeah,
4047.
Yeah, anyway.
Hey, who?
I think it's an AKG.
Yeah.
4047.
AKG. I forget the letters. 404. Anyway, it's a great mic.
A real good
And
mic.
I don't know who gave it to me, but someone said use this. I said okay. So that's how I knew, but I have no idea. Don,
Yep.
I assume if it catches fire in the middle of a session, you might want to replace it. But
Okay.
I've never thought. I do know if your mini Mac dies, what is that? Closer. I don't know what that says.
It says Ricola. So I have a cough drop in my mouth, so that's why I look funny. But I'll take this question and then Johnny, you can expand on it. But basically, number one thing is your room. You could use a cheap mic in a great room, but you can't flip that around. Your room is more important than your mic. The only thing on a mic is the better mics are smoother. It's subtle. It's like if I used real cheese or aged cheddar. That's probably better than Velveeta. Velveeta is not cheese, just in case you didn't know that. Velveeta. So there's a once you get past a certain point, then all the details are subtle. And if you have $100 mic, chances are it's at the level where it's okay. Once you get into the mics that are kind of in the $200 range, $200 to $500, you get into a range of mics that some people will use their whole career. And I know another guy that I won't give his name, but who has done over 1,000 books. And he's using a mic that's probably about $150. It's not an expensive mic, but he has a great room, and he's one of the best actors I know. I mean, point being, there's a lot of other things more important than your mic. And if you're making good money at this and you've got a good, then go ahead and update. But once you get into a few $100 mic, you're going to be in a range that you probably could work with that for a lot longer than most people think. If instead they're investing in updating the room, investing in their coaching so that their acting is better. Now, I'm a tech guy. I have my wife on a mic that's about $400. One of my favorite. I think it's one of the most undervalued mics, meaning it punches way above its price point. And it's called an MK4. I think they're about $400. And it's a fantastic mic. It's made by Sennheiser. Anyway, point being, once you get anything in the like $200 to $500 range, you're going to be in a range that for 95% of the people, you could use that your whole career and not worry about it. And there's a lot of other more important things. So don't switch out your equipment unless, as you move up the scale and you're making more money at this business, then you can say, you know what? I'm going to have something that's higher quality starting ingredients, just like if I'm making salad right now and I find out that they make the same company has an organic division and they have a non-organic. Well, long term, the organic stuff has some health benefits, but most people aren't going to know the difference on it for a while. So I'm not a big change your mic and go spend $1,000 on a mic, especially during the first few years, because it is totally overwhelmed by the room, and a great mic will pick up your room more. So if you have a crappy room and this phenomenal mic, that's rarely helpful. Okay, so for most people, don't change your mic
Yeah.
unless you had
And
just purchased every once in a while, so when someone started, they purchased a starter mic and they didn't know anything and they found a mic, it was $75 and they bought it. It might be okay, but chances are in that
can't
price
tell
range.
karaoke mic.
Yeah, chances are in that
Hey,
price range there are going to be some better things, but when you switch, you won't be instantly, wow, everyone wants to hire me now, because my acting hasn't changed, my delivery hasn't changed, and my room hasn't changed. So get your room in shape first. That's primary. Get your acting in shape first, and then as you're doing it consistently, then making money, go ahead and reinvest and get in something that's $300 to $500, and you'll be fantastic.
And you'll find you'll get a few extra backup. Like I now have 2 mics. So if this mic goes, I do have another one.
Correct.
I don't know what happens if you change midstream. I have no idea. But I know I have a Scarlett interface, and I
Mhm.
think it was Don told me some years ago, have a backup interface because those could go.
Yep.
And those goes out. So I have they're not expensive, like $100 or something, I think.
Yep.
So
Come on.
I have a brand new one in a box. It's not brand new anymore, but it's unopened,
Yeah.
like a great baseball card. So it's there. So if something goes bad, and I use a Mac Mini or a Mini Mac, whatever comes first, or a Minnie Mouse or Mickey Mouse. I use a Mac Mini, and it blew out once, and I don't remember how we know. Joanna noted it. I think it was something was amiss, so we just went out and got another one,
Yep.
and that's going. And when that thing dies, I'll probably get another one because it's really good. It
Yeah.
holds on my junk. I do recommend, if you're not, I assume you're doing this, but I recommend that you don't use your PC or Mac, whatever you're using, your daily use one for your audiobook work.
Yeah. If
I
you can
think you
get
need
away
a
with it.
dedicated one,
Yeah.
really, because it's got to be workhorse, and you're gonna, if business goes the way you want it to, you'll be using it a lot. This is everything in this booth and just the other side of this wall is all dedicated to this business. And over the years, you build up, things like I've got one of these little seat cushions I'm sitting on right now. Well, I sweat a lot. So if Joanna comes in to do a book after me, I got another seat cushion. So she doesn't have to sit in the one I just sweated all through. Stuff like that is just, you'll find the little things like that make the world better. Like those little Arctic shirts and those little towels you put on, you get them
Yep.
wet with warm water, you put them on and they keep you cool. All those things you don't think about, but the little things start making a difference. I think Scott Brick does a whole video of how he set up his booth. He uses those what do you call those chef's shelves, kind of.
Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe Byron will tell him about it. And it's a nice setup, everything you want. So like here, well, above my head, probably his shelving starts, and he's got all kinds of crap you may want in there.
Yeah.
So how you set up your booth, however you set it at the beginning may not be how you're going to find it works best. Be willing to make changes that make you more comfortable and help your output be the best it can be. But mostly when equipment dies, it dies because it's dead.
Yep.
I don't know if there's any sign that you don't get a "Oh God, I'm dying" sign from the Mini Mac.
Yeah. It's not, the thing is it's not like a flat tire where you instantly notice, oh, hey, I have
Yeah,
a problem. But
yeah,
it can be the same thing though, that you can have a brand new tire and if you happen to run over a nail, it can go bad in 3 months. And some of this equipment, people are going, I've been using this for 2 years and I've had no problems. It's like, well, you've used it for 2 years and you've had no problems. That doesn't mean it's going to continue to work tomorrow. Unfortunately, some of this stuff lasts 2 years and you have the luck of the draw. They make 10,000 of those. Scarletts, and out of that 10,000, 3 of them are going to go way early compared to all the other ones, and sometimes that's just life. You got the one that
You got the
lasted
lemon.
2 years, and everybody else got one that lasted 4. So,
Anybody else
anyway.
have any questions they want to ask about? Because here we are at your beck and your call.
Yep.
Aha.
No,
Oh, we just did
that was I'm sorry, I just clicked on the
Damn it, man.
so
Damn
so
that Sherry. Ask repeating herself like that.
yeah, yeah.
Oh, we should talk for a second. Pardon me. I don't want to go along this. I know Don wants to talk about this at length, and he's not feeling well. I'm just going to bring up. We do have thoughts about what's her name, Tilly, the AI actor. I think
Yeah,
it's Tilly.
yeah, we've been so I'll just say this, I've been doing crazy heavy study over the last 6, 9 months on AI related stuff and looking at the impact on us as actors, as performers, um, and there are aspects of AI. So AI is this dual-edged sword that um, it's going to impact both us as actors and narrators. Less if you're like Heller will never have to worry about AI taking his job. There's just things he can do that the I don't know if it'll ever do, but it could replace me on a voiceover where I have 2 sentences. In that 2 sentences, it can be close enough, and it depends on the economic worth of a voiceover. And a lot of those things, if they're maybe for a YouTube video, it doesn't need to have the subcontext and knowing about the backstory of something. It's just it's a different animal, but it's a force multiplier for all those stupid things that I don't want to have to do manually. And I am kind of blown away. I feel like we're at the beginning of the same revolution, except for on steroids, that we had when this stupid device came out. How
Yeah.
many of you today carry this piece of plastic every place? Matter of fact, I
You
this
go
is
crazy if you don't have it.
well, it's like I'm walking, yeah, 20 feet away, and I don't take it when I'm recording. It's when if I'm recording in the booth, I don't take my phone in. So, and then I come out and it's like, well, where did I set my phone? Because I'm not used to not taking it with me every place. So I do recommend that you don't keep your phone in the booth. You can kind of get away with it sometimes. Yeah, I know, but we're not doing anything critical here. And there are cases where you'll get away with it, but you'll also get some funny buzzing that can come in, and some equipment can pick it up at weird times. So I don't recommend that, but life happens. People forget. Anyway, if you had told me 20 years ago that we were going to send text messages more than we were kind of going to call people, I don't know if I
Yeah.
would have believed you. And I certainly would not have thought that it would get to be such a valuable tool. And AI is like the phone in that a smartphone that has it's life changing for all the other stuff that we don't want to do except for our core stuff. And I do think it's going to become increasingly important that you track it and understand the fundamentals of it so that you can understand where it would impact potentially your work, but where it can be a force multiplier. And a simple example, I mean, I'm never going to be an expert in writing an email or answering an email or organizing email or organizing things that tracking a project. I'm not, I track, like I do it. I have a checklist. You won't be able to read this, but I have a list of things. I always have a piece of paper sitting around, and I have a pen, and I'm writing some stuff down, and I have electronic versions of it as well. I mean, if I'm on my phone, if I'm someplace else, I write something in a little note to myself, and then it shows up on my screen. I have it in both places. But then when I'm working on something, sometimes I just find it easier to give myself a keyword, and then I check it off. If you you won't see it on this list, but there's a check mark there. That's just me. I checked that off. I checked this one off. I mean, I'm not showing you the details, but I had 4 or 5 things that I wanted to have done in the next 30 minutes, and I just wrote a single line, and then I checked them off as I did them to make sure I got the things accomplished. AI is a force multiplier, and it will affect your life more than what most people think. And it's moving rapidly to do more and more, and it's becoming a bit overwhelming because you have multiple companies working on it. So I'm doing a crazy deep dive on it. I'm actually putting out a course. It's going to be called uh, AI for VO and Life. I'm working on that. I've got it all outlined. That'll probably, the first one will happen in the next couple weeks.
Actually,
And then,
Don's gonna do a bit on that with Tom Deere at New England, so
yeah,
another reason to attend our event.
yeah, it's just one of these things that it's life changing on a bunch of things that have nothing to do with your work life. Just like the phone, you just think of how your life is different with a phone right now, and that I remember text messaging when it first came out and how you had to do it. And anybody who's old enough that they had the original phones and the original text messages, most of us thought, "Oh, this is fun. It's interesting. It has some utility." But I never would have thought that my kids would ultimately not respond to me on a phone call, but would respond to a text. And that is going to be the thing that happens more often than not, is people send text messages to each other rather than making the call. Johnny and I still call each other, but we're
It
young
weirds me
guys.
out when I call people because, "Why don't you just text me?" I'm like, "Well, I wanna talk to you."
Yeah, I know, but they don't. I am the same way, but they don't want to talk to me. All right,
No, they
so
don't.
so
No, they don't. That's the worst part of it. I'd rather you text them, like, "But have you talked to me? Do you
yeah,
know?"
yeah, yeah, but that's going to, we're in the minority, and I've realized, because of some of it is because of my kids that have taught me, if I want to communicate with a large set of people in the world, I have to adapt, and that means I'm going to send more texts than I'm going to do phone calls, and I can call my mom because that'll work for her, but my kids, eh, I'm going to
Yeah,
text them first and say, hey, I like, this is the dumbest thing. I text my kids, hey, call me, okay?
yeah, and I'll say, let me say this, and I'm gonna do an AI quick thing here. Any agent who actually signs this AI actor, Tilly, whatever her name is, if I was on the roster of that agency, I would leave the agency immediately.
Yeah,
I think that, and I know there's AI in audio. I know there's ChatGPT that writes books, and I know there's AI voices.
yep,
And I'm going to tell you this right now. People ask all the time, "What's that going to do to my career?" And here's what it's going to do: nothing if you're any good.
right,
If you're at a place and staying at a place where a machine can do a better job telling the story than you, then you are to blame for a large part of the AI problem. Then yeah, you will have your job taken by an AI actor. Why not?
yeah,
If people get used to a shitty performance as the norm,
right,
and you're just as shitty as the AI, well, the AI is cheaper than you.
yeah. And there are
So,
cases,
I'm gonna, it sounds harsh, but it is.
yeah,
You need to be good. You need to work to be good. You need to up your game all the time. And every great actor I have ever read about, studied, worked with, seen is constantly in a learning
yeah,
process.
they're always taking classes. They're always,
Or just getting things, yeah.
yep. So Ray just asked a great question.
Ray Conley. This could be Ray Conley's booth soon if he plays his cards right.
When working with coaches on fiction, particularly, there seems to be two schools of thought: the less approach versus the bold theatrical one. And that is true. That there's definitely. So go ahead, Johnny. What's your first impression on that?
Okay. Less is the Paul Rubens school of acting. Bring it down. He wants the author's truth to sing out more than the actors, and I think there's a happy medium here. There, however, the bold theatrical choice is rarely. I hate to say, is rarely the wisest choice in audiobooks because you're not in a theatrical setting. Actors are fooled to think. While this does check a lot of theatrical actor boxes, pardon me, a script, a story, playing these different roles, different, what does this character want? What does that character want? What's the arc of the scene? What, all the acting things. Well, that's theatrical in nature and that's your training. But to play it theatrically is antithetical to the medium. And what I mean by that is no one, I use it in my coaching all the time. Audiobooks don't use jazz hands. We're not singing out Louise. We're not belting to row double J. We have the microphone we discussed. We have it. If you speak this loudly in an audiobook, everyone's going to hear it. Everyone's going to know exactly what you're saying. And I would argue that while theatrically an angry person may be like this, in real life, an angry person's rather like this, and it's softer.
Right.
And I'm telling you, the choices you make that are theatrical are generally made for the purpose of being theatrical, as opposed to what's real and what the story requires and what the emotion requires and what the listener requires for an engaging read. And when we get to the less, well, it depends. I'm a big, boisterous, loud personality. I know it. I make up for my lack of height with an abundance of loudness and ebullience. So I'm there. So, if you're going to play me, you might be bigger than other people because that's how I work. Who's Lou, the guy on Comedy Central, the older comic.
No, I don't know.
I just saw him earlier today. Anyway, there are people who are just kind of, if you have to play that, you play that. You play what the author gives you. Less is because really in real life, the big people are far and few between.
Yeah.
Like I'm not as big as I act sometimes. You can share an elevator with me without being embarrassed. Less. It
Well,
just depends. What does the author call for? But in terms of the bold theatrical choice, unless the character is a bold theatrical character in a bold theatrical moment, those choices are generally bold and theatrical for the theater. And as I've said many times, I believe audiobook performances are more cinematic than theatrical, while the tricks of the trade are indeed theatrical.
so Ray is pointing out maybe theatrical is the wrong word, but sort of the Joel approach. But I will say this: if you're an actor that has the range to do both, then you have the ability to make a choice.
Yes.
And one of the things that the reason less is actually very difficult, in a sense. It's you still are acting, and I used to not like commercial music. I played jazz when I was a young guy, and jazz is kind of the elite, and we're the snobs of the musical scene. And then you play commercial music, and it's like, well, it just seems like a lot less. But there's a whole art to playing good commercial music, that comes into play, and I see the same parallel in the acting world. Doing less does not mean not acting. It is definitely an art form to figure out what Johnny would call the essence of what needs to be there, and having that essence still be there. But almost the people that are really great at less tend to be really great actors. Why does Sean Pratt do nonfiction, but he has a theater background? He definitely does less. But because he has the range, and you having done all your theater training and comedy and stand-up training, it allows you to be big when you need to and have that range and occasionally flash that, but it also allows you to do the less. So I'll just say you're gonna have to have both, but in this setting, Johnny will tell you most of it's going to be less, with the occasional have the ability. If you have the ability to go big and then you tone it down, you still have the essence there, even at less.
Great. We can talk about this with Joel. By the way, those watching, that's a Joel Leslie Frumkin, who is a wonderful actor and a fellow coach and great colleague. I think Joel, by nature, is theatrical. That's who he is. I think that's part of his being. I'm not certain that even his coaching is theatrical. And maybe he takes you to. I think Joel takes you some extremes that only to pull you down.
Right.
It's hard. It's easy to get you to bring things down. It's difficult to get you out. But if I build you up, boom, you're booming. Okay, now bring it all in. You still have that emotional feel of the boom, but now I'm telling you to put it underneath so that what comes out is more innately human.
Yep.
And I think Joel would agree with that as well. this is something we'll work on, Ray, because I think it's a great question, great topic.
Yeah.
But it brings us to the end of the session, and I wanna pretend everybody's standing, Don. Here's a standing O, you being here, doing this, feeling the way you do, and of course, looking the way you do.
Yeah,
Let me thank you.
it's nap time for me. I gotta go take it. I'm really you know that you're not feeling good when you've been up about 45 minutes and I'm starting to go, "Oh, wow,
Time for this.
how
Yeah.
soon can I get my nap in?" That's a but that's how I literally started the day 45 minutes into it and thought to myself, "Okay, the minute we're done, I'm napping, baby." Um,
We are done, baby. So,
yeah,
we will be here next week. Can't remember offhand who my guest is. I can probably tell you in 2 seconds if Don will give me 2 seconds.
yep,
Say bye things, Don. I'll look at our guests, so I have it. Show guests. And by the way, if anybody wants to be a guest or knows of a guest we should have, do let us know.
Savannah Gilmore.
Yes, okay? And it doesn't really matter where you are in your career. We're happy to talk to you because if you're far along, people wanna know how you got there and what you're doing, and people are like that. If you're brand new, what are you dealing with? What are the problems? What are the issues? Let's find out, and we'll talk, okay? Don, thank you for being
Yeah, happy to be
you,
here. Happy to be here.
and
It's always a
and
joy, and it's a joy
gang, thanks for
talking to
joining
everybody.
us. We'll see you on the other side of the wire.
Yep, see you on the wire.
Don,
Talk to you
thanks.
later. Bye-bye.
Bye.